we're back with another episode of Before You Buy, that show where we give you some straight up gameplay and our first impressions of the latest games releasing. Today, we're taking a quick look at the GTA Trilogy, the definitive edition. Again, they updated it. November 12th, they released a huge patch for this that updated the game. It's been 2 years since the console and PC versions of the game have seen any kind of like big improvement, and now out of nowhere, they're just dropping this in our laps. So currently, the patch has been released for all the major consoles: PS5, Xbox Series X and S, Switch, PS4, Xbox One, everything. I'm playing it on PS5, that's where you see the gameplay footage here, but for the most part, all the ports are seeing the majority of these improvements. You're not suddenly getting 60 frames per second on the Switch or anything after this, but the majority of the fixes we're describing should apply to most of it. Now, why is this a big deal, you may ask? Well, if you don't remember, when this thing originally came out 3 years ago, it was a mess. And going back through the game now, looking at all the things they improved is mostly just reminding us of all the things they got wrong the first time, which is upsetting. If you remember our first videos on this, I remember saying on the record that the game just did not get the love that they so absolutely deserve. They were cheap and undercooked, and that was a massive shame. Now, I'm not going to linger on how bad the original release of the definitive edition was. If you watch these videos, or if you like Grand Theft Auto, or you're online, you've probably heard this. So the real question and why you're here is, what does this update actually add? A lot. The biggest change, and the one that kind of made us run to the computer and start making this video, is the immediately noticeable return of classic lighting, in quotes. And that alone makes these games feel so much closer to the original. So for whatever reason, the remakes used to have this attempt at naturalistic lighting rather than the more stylized color and feel of the original games. It didn't work. It made the games look kind of flat and dull and just didn't really capture the distinct atmosphere and vibes, you know? The classic lighting here is so much better. It actually makes these games look and feel like the originals now, for the most part. I'm mostly going to be using San Andreas as an example because that's the game that got it the worst in the remaster overall. That was where it was really the most notable. It's the one where the most stuff was also just cut and changed unnecessarily or just broken. This thing is like night and day now with the new lighting and atmospheric effects and all that. It just looks so much better. They also finally made it so like different regions have different lighting like they were supposed to. So San Fierro's lighting is different from Los Santos, which is different from Las Venturas. They also fixed the atmospheric effects and the weather too. You probably remember us complaining about how bad the rain looked in the original versions. They fixed that. I believe they fixed that a little while ago, but if you're jumping in for the first time here now, that stuff is all fine. The weather all looks good across the board for the most part. And what's cool with San Andreas is that each region has its own weather again. You know, San Fierro has the heavy rain, the desert has sandstorm, so it's all really as it should be. Nighttime lighting is way better too. You can actually see at night, but it feels appropriately dark. You know, the game isn't blasting you with these eye-searing white lights and pitch black darkness anymore. It all looks, again, much closer to how the games used to look and just more balanced. Vice City actually has orange streetlights at night again, rather than just being white. So many little things like this are updated and improved that it's nearly impossible to list them all here, and people are still finding stuff out days later now. Now, why wasn't this in the original version? That's the big question. These are basic features from the base game, and it took them longer to add this stuff back in than it took the original San Andreas to be developed. Like, we're not kidding. Apparently they made San Andreas in something like 2 years. Anyway, the draw distance and the fog issue is finally fully fixed too. So like on top of Mount Chiliad, you can't see the entire map with like the edges and all. That was how it was, and it looked so bad. Now the world is properly obscured in the appropriate amount of fog so that the world appears bigger than it actually is. That like kind of cloud layer that was supposed to be there has been re-implemented too. Another visual improvement is that they finally fixed the water. It has the effects it's supposed to and kind of has the correct transparency. Again, basics that should have been in the game from the beginning, but better late than never. It also seems like CJ's swim speed is back to where it's supposed to be too. Now, some people had a big problem with a lot of the character models when the Definitive Edition originally re-released. A lot of people didn't like the way Tommy looked. Look, you can clown on me. I'll go on record saying I liked the kind of creative choices. They made them look cartoony, but semi-real. Still, it seems like nobody was really happy with them, so they did tweak them. Tommy in particular just looks a lot more like how he should look for a lot of people, and that's the case for a lot of main characters and NPCs. It looks like a lot of them got overhauls, like a lot of them had been given another pass to make them, especially like the side characters, just look a lot better. Like Ryder doesn't have like those freakish elongated arms anymore when he's riding the bike. CJ actually animates properly when he's doing things like working out. There are animation improvements and fixes all over the place, all little things, but it all adds up. It doesn't seem like it's perfect, but it is a hell of a lot better.
You picked the wrong house, fool!
Hey, Big Smoke! It's me, Carl! Chill!
CJ? Oh, my dog! What's up? Hey, baby, you okay, man?
Nah, man. It's my mom's, homie.
Hey, I don't know why this had to happen, but I promise you, I'm gonna find out who killed your moms. The streets is cold, dog. Like it says in the book, we are blessed and cursed.
And remember how, for some weird reason, the Definitive Edition removed a lot of like little animations and little details from the world? Well, a lot of that is fixed. The oil derricks are working again, the gas station signs are spinning. Most everything seems to be moving properly again, at least from what we've seen so far, first impressions wise. They also fixed a lot of the road textures to be more detailed as they originally were, and a lot of the textures seem to have gotten a touch up. Not all of them, though. A lot of world objects with like text on them are still garbled and unreadable because of AI upscaling. A lot of this stuff used to be readable in the old games, but now it's just kind of nonsense. Most of the signs are fine, I'll say a majority, but some of the smaller stuff like the signs on trucks are often messed up still. And one last thing, they finally fixed the aim while moving bug too, so that's one less annoying thing to worry about. All these little things sound small, sound like little nitpick things in isolation, but when you put them together, they really do affect the overall atmosphere of these games, man. The originals were colorful and had moody, weird lighting, and then the OG Definitive Editions, like on top of all the other problems, just had flat, sterile lighting that sucked all the life out of it all. You know, the flavor, the feeling of those original games, remakes, remasters, whatever you want to call them. There's something about color palette, lighting, and feel that often needs to translate over to kind of like trigger in your brain and remind you of the old thing. Originally, the Definitive Editions made these games look kind of boring. I kind of get the idea behind going for more naturalistic, realistic lighting to give the game more of like an HD look, or look like kind of like a fan remake in Unreal Engine 5. Like, it just did not work here. So I'm so happy they got the classic lighting. So these are all the major upgrades to the Definitive Edition. The games look better and are more accurate to the original versions. They managed to squash most of the major bugs in the game at this point, and it seems, I'm pretty sure they patched up a majority of like those seams in the world and some of the collision issues. We haven't encountered them all, so still keep your eyes peeled, but things just do seem generally better. As far as the Definitive Edition goes, this is now, at this point, by far the best version of the remaster, like pretty significantly better. It's improved in all the ways that really matter. And hey, if you, for whatever reason, just do not like the classic lighting, then you actually have the ability to switch it off if you want. This Definitive Edition thing is not all perfect, though. Some of the changes are kind of odd, like how certain cutscenes have been removed and replaced with in-game dialogue lines. It's usually for very small scenes and nothing major, and maybe this was meant to leave you in control during certain sections where cutscenes were deemed totally unnecessary, but it does stand out kind of awkward occasionally. And most disappointingly for me personally, the soundtracks are still kind of gutted, and it really sucks. San Andreas got it the worst, but Vice City is missing some tracks too. Look, we know music rights are expensive and licensing is a tricky thing. It's probably crazy expensive for some of these songs, but It just still sucks that they're missing the tracks. That's the short of it. 31 in total, and there are some real classics here. The loss of so many tracks is what still kills me, man. I wish they found some way to get these back in the game because the music is such an important part of the series' identity. I don't know if Rockstar just doesn't want to pay up for the license fees or if a lot of the artists just straight up don't want to be in the game or refused or whatever, but missing this many songs from the definitive edition hurts the overall package, like a lot. But that was the case then when this thing originally released and was more of a mess, and unfortunately it's still the case now. It's one of those things where if you're playing the games for the first time, you won't even notice, but if you know, then you know, and it sours the entire experience. So for people who already own the remaster, but put it away in disgust or frustration 3 years ago, now maybe it's the time to jump back in. This is the best it's been. But for the people still on the fence, well, these are mostly still just simple graphical updates, and these are still the same games as ever. We'd still argue that the definitive edition isn't quite like the remake, the treatment that these games should have gotten. It's still pretty bare bones, and it's expensive. The quality of life improvements are great. You know, I'm not denying that having a proper autosave and more modern aiming isn't good. It is good, it's very good. But like, it just all should have been better at the jump. I am so happy this thing is just in a much better state. I still think, you know, even with developer mistakes, a better game existing out in the universe is always better than a crappy game. So yeah, either way, however you feel about this, potentially probably pretty strongly, at least we still have the originals as well. But that's really it. That's a before you buy real quick. So you know how this goes. We give you some pros, some cons, and some personal opinions. So now we want to hear yours down in the comments. If you have any fond memories with this game, we would love to hear those from you, man. It's funny. Or if you're talking fond memories, maybe just of this definitive edition. Do you remember firing up GTA 3 and seeing the rain for the first time? I thought I was like having like a medical issue when I saw that. Anyway, let's talk about these games, the originals. If you've been checking out the updated visuals and lighting and stuff like that, anything at all, hit us up down below. Now, if you like this video, you like talking games with us and seeing some gameplay on screen to maybe help inform your purchase or download or whatever, clicking the like button helps us out. Thank you. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.
I got you covered, man. Go! Yeah.
Head to attention. South Vinewood.
CJ, fool!